partner with the lobbying firm Gotham Government Relations. He joins me live on the line from New York. Welcome. As I understand, this law was passed by the Knesset. So why do we see it now being challenged and in the Supreme Court?
Well, it was passed by the Knesset, but the traditional constitutional system that Israel has allows the Supreme Court, the basic law actually allows the Supreme Court to review for several different criteria to review laws that are passed by the Knesset. It can't do that automatically. Usually, it has to be brought by some party that has standing, and that's been done. And I think it's interesting that this now comes between the passage of the law 2 weeks ago, where the Knesset voted to overturn a law which allows the Knesset, the Supreme Court rather, the Knesset voted to overturn a law that allows the Supreme Court to overrule a Knesset law if it is not considered reasonable. And that throws into question the whole right of the Supreme Court to exercise constitutional or judicial review, which is a fundamental part of what we consider a modern liberal democracy. And this law regarding the recusal of a prime minister for various reasons beyond medical conditions is seen as personal and specific to Netanyahu's own legal situation, which again, in most democracies, in the United States, for example, the United States Congress, by the U.S. Constitution, is not allowed to give itself a salary increase. Anything it approves as a salary increase can only apply to the next Congress. In this case, Netanyahu, as the head of the coalition in the Knesset, he passed a law that prevents the Supreme Court from taking him out of contention as prime minister while he's on trial. So now that the law has been passed, that sort of subverts the whole Knesset, the whole Supreme Court's right to even review these decisions. It's very significant, and they're going to be doing a hearing on that law next month. So it really shows, I think, how specific and how personal this matter is for Netanyahu. He doesn't seem like the best person to be presiding over this big judicial overhaul when he himself is on trial and also wants to bring in people who have already been convicted into the government.
I mean, I'm only a layman, but it sounds to me like there's an awful lot of conflict of interest here and a bit of a power struggle between the parliament and the judiciary, which makes me want to ask, the Supreme Court, as I understand it, is going to be ruling on a law that effectively limits its powers. Is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, the Supreme Court, the members of the Supreme Court, the justices of the Supreme Court, their jobs are not at stake, and they're not in danger of being arrested. So you could make a case that it's institutionally, of course, they have an interest in it, but the whole purpose of the Supreme Court is not to allocate funds for the military, is not to determine the interest rates, it's not to determine the social welfare protocols, it's to determine what is constitutional. So yeah, there's a built-in conflict of interest, but in Netanyahu's case, it affects whether or not he could go to prison. It affects whether he can reward allies, whether he can take gifts, personal gifts that might be considered bribes with impunity. Nobody is accusing the Supreme Court justices of acting improperly or worrying about their own careers in this. So the conflict of interest is, again, more institutional than personal. For Netanyahu, it's very, very personal.
Shai, I appreciate your time. My guest is Shai Franklin, partner with the lobbying firm Gotham Government Relations in New York. Thank you.